When you picture the human skeleton in adulthood, it is easy to imagine a finished, concrete-like framework, a seemingly lifeless structure that only changes when it reaches the inevitable point of splintering under extreme pressure. The reality is entirely different. The skeletal system is a multifaceted metabolic engine operating continuously beneath the surface. Bone architecture is a pragmatic biological adaptation. It is designed to constantly adjust its mass and density in response to shifting physical loads and systemic chemical demands. This creates a truly fascinating biological paradox. Skeletal survival and structural integrity depend entirely on a hidden, relentless cycle of internal destruction and renewal. Looking at this geometric cross-section of a standard long bone, there is a sharp contrast between the dense, hardened outer shell and the cavernous interior. That central hollow space inside the shaft of the bone is the medullary cavity, where bone marrow is stored. This cavity is the active biological birthplace of the skeletal system's resilience, its capacity to recover quickly from difficulties and adapt to physical trauma. True structural strength does not originate from the hardened exterior armor. It originates from the soft, vulnerable, and highly active core of the bone. The entire bone matrix is managed by two distinct competing cellular workforces, locked in a continuous tug-of-war. To understand how they maintain the skeleton, we have to differentiate between these two cellular roles, starting with the builders. As we see in this microscopic view, specialized cells called osteoblasts are strictly responsible for creating, secreting, and building new bone tissue matrices. They actively patch the microscopic fractures caused by the physical stress of daily movement. But for this system to work, there must be an opposing force, the biological breakers. Panning across the matrix, we find osteoclasts. These are cells that actively break down and absorb old or damaged bone tissue. There is an absolute dependency between these two forces. Osteoblasts cannot rebuild a structure unless osteoclasts first clear away the compromised tissue. Continuous, localized tissue destruction is the exact mechanism that prevents catastrophic structural failure across the whole skeleton. The soft, fibrous raw materials laid down by osteoblasts must undergo a chemical transformation to mature into a rigid, load-bearing structure. This time-lapse simulation illustrates the process of ossification, the natural process where soft, flexible tissue or cartilage completely turns into hard bone. Ossification is never instantaneous. It is an incremental process, happening gradually over time through a series of steady metabolic stages. Because of the massive scale of this microscopic work, this constant cycle of resorption and ossification completely replaces the human skeleton approximately every 10 years. A bone is never a finished product. It is a continuous, lifelong architectural project uniquely capable of upgrading itself to bear changing physical loads. Structural repair is only half the equation. The skeleton also acts as a massive chemical reservoir for the rest of the body. When osteoclasts break down bone tissue, they release stored calcium and vital minerals directly into the bloodstream. This balancing scale graphic demonstrates homeostasis, the ability of a living body to maintain a stable internal environment. The body uses the skeleton as a counterweight, adding or subtracting mass to keep blood mineral levels constant. This dual-purpose system provides rigid structural support while simultaneously functioning as a fluid mineral bank, managing two opposing biological requirements within a single framework. If the skeleton prioritized only structural rigidity and stopped releasing minerals, the nervous and muscular systems would rapidly and fatally fail. Zooming out from this microscopic mineral exchange, we find the skeleton's primary macro-level load-bearing infrastructure. This schematic highlights the axial skeleton, the central weight-bearing part of the skeleton. It includes the protective skull, the articulated vertebral column, and the structural rib cage. While the axial skeleton provides the central axis, its individual hardened bones would simply collapse into a pile without external binding. The connection between these separate bones is facilitated by specialized, highly durable connective tissues. Zooming in on the spine, we see a ligament, a tough, flexible band of connective tissue that connects two bones together at a joint. A ligament must balance immense tensile strength with just enough elasticity to allow for limited movement. This precise balance physically restricts excessive movement and prevents the joint from dislocating under strain. Macroscopic stability relies entirely on this network of flexible biological tethers. They dictate exactly how much tension and rotation the axial framework can safely endure. Beyond the restrictive, stabilizing role of ligaments, the skeleton must also allow for free-flowing movement between bones. This medical illustration of a knee shows a synovial joint. This is a type of joint surrounded by a sealed, fluid-filled capsule. The primary mechanical function of this pressurized fluid is to allow for completely smooth, frictionless articulation under immense physical pressure and body weight. Without this lubricating fluid capsule, raw bone would scrape directly on raw bone, resulting in excruciating pain. Left unchecked, this intense bone-on-bone friction would quickly lead to the rapid destruction of the bone matrix itself. Complex biological movement is a fluid dynamics problem. The synovial capsule is the only thing preventing the skeleton from physically grinding itself into dust. The macroscopic performance of synovial joints and the axial skeleton depends entirely on the microscopic cellular remodeling of osteoblasts and osteoclasts. Looking at these two scales side by side, the plausibility of human physical endurance relies on a continuous, multi-layered feedback loop between destruction and repair. The entire biomechanical architecture of the skeletal system serves as a testament to the necessity of dynamic equilibrium in nature. Skeletal strength is not a static state of being. It is a relentless, highly engineered